want to welcome you to another episode of Marking the Times. I want to thank you so much for joining us. These are interesting times in which we live. They're unprecedented times. And in times like these, we need to gather together like this with me and you and connect and talk about things that affect our lives today, but also have an eye on the future and how what's happening today really has ramifications prophetically. One of the things we all need to be doing, I think, at this time is using our the time that God's given to us wisely. We need to be reaching out to one another. Don't let yourself get too isolated or too discouraged during this time. If you start feeling that way, reach out to some other people. I know there are a lot of people around all of us who love us and care about us, so we need to really be ministering to one another during this time. Again, I appreciate you tuning in to Marking the Times. I know that what we're going to talk about here today will have important implications really for your life and really for the future of the world. What I want to talk about is this whole coronavirus crisis. Of course, that's all we've been hearing about 24/7, but I want to talk about that because many people are wondering, is this a sign of the times? How does this relate to what the Bible says about plagues in the future? I've heard a lot of Bible teachers here recently, prophecy teachers, say that they believe that coronavirus is one of the birth pains in Matthew chapter 24 that Jesus referred to. So let me read these verses here in Matthew 24 just to get the setting. Beginning in Matthew 24 and verse 3, it says, as he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, which I was just there a few weeks ago, so I've got a good picture of this in my mind's eye. The disciples came to him privately saying, tell us, when will these things happen? What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Jesus answered and said to them, see to it that no one misleads you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will mislead many. You'll be hearing of wars and rumors of wars. See to it you're not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet the end. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. In various places there will be famines and earthquakes, but all these things are merely the beginning of birth pains. Now, over in Luke's gospel, in Luke's account of this Olivet discourse, in Luke chapter 21, verse 10, says, then he continued by saying to them, nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there will be great earthquakes, and in various places plagues and famines. And there will be terrors and great signs from heaven. So again, a lot of prophecy teachers read this and say these famines that we see today and the wars that we see today, earthquakes and also plagues, these are the birth pangs that Jesus spoke of here in Matthew 24. Now I'm actually going to bring a sermon this Sunday in our church if you want to get online and watch it, where I talk about a lot of this in more detail. I've also got a book that I'm writing right now that's going to come out on May 19th. It's called Corona Crisis. I'm going to deal with that a lot more in detail in this book, so you can get on Amazon and check that out even now. I think it's already there to order for May 19th. But when you look at Matthew 24, what we see here in this passage, a lot of people take this to just refer to 70 AD. They say this is all about the destruction of Jerusalem in the past. A lot of people see this as talking about the present. It's talking about things that we're seeing today, wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes, famines, plagues. I don't hold either one of those views. I don't see this as just referring back to 70 AD. I don't see this as referring to what's happening today. I see this as talking about the future time during the tribulation period. Now, there are a lot of reasons why I hold that, and I won't have time to go into all of those in our brief video here today. But let me just give you one very important reason. When you read Matthew 24, it's often called the mini apocalypse or the little apocalypse, because it's kind of a crystallized version or a summarized version, really, of the book of Revelation. And if you go to Revelation 6, and you might do that this week, and read Revelation 6, 1 through 8, you have the same order of events that you have here in Matthew 24. Matthew 24 talks about false messiahs and false Christs. If you go to Revelation chapter 6, it's the rider on a white horse. Then you have in Matthew 24 wars and rumors of wars. In Revelation 6, you have the rider on the red horse. In Matthew 24, you have famines. In Revelation 6, you have the rider on the black horse. And then you have plagues and various things that are mentioned in Matthew 24, and actually over in Luke 21. And then you go to Revelation 6, you have the rider on the pale horse. So there's a real parallel between Matthew 24 and Revelation 6. Now, again, I put Revelation 6 in the tribulation period. So do most other commentators. But then a lot of the same people that see Revelation 6 as future come back and try to put Matthew 24 in the present. But you have to put both of these passages in the same context because they're very parallel to one another. So I don't see the plagues we see today, like coronavirus, as one of the birth pains in Matthew 24. But I do see it not as a fulfillment of this, but I see it as a foretaste of it. And as I see it as kind of a foreshadow of what's coming. And again, we see the globalism today. We see the global panic today. We see the call for kind of the World Health Organization and the United Nations to kind of be made overseers of all of this and override the sovereignty of individual nations to combat the coronavirus, which again, that's paving the way kind of for coming of the Antichrist. So all these things we see happening today are foreshadows, they're foretastes of what's coming. It's a preview. But it's not the fulfillment of these things because, again, Matthew 24, this passage here, is relating to what's going to happen in the future after the rapture of the church takes place. But again, we're living in the days today of the stage setting, of the setup, of the build-up for these things. We can see clearly how what the Bible predicts in the future during the tribulation will happen. It's all here today. We can see the setup for it. So I hope that helps you understand what's going on in our world today and how what we see happening relates to prophecy and to the end times. Thank you again for joining us. God bless you. We'll see you next time.